Welcome to the Piece of Me podcast, the place to find different ways to bring enjoyment, simplicity, happiness, and of course, more peace into your life. Life gets busy, noisy, and at times it's messy. I'm here to help you clean things up and put peace back in its place. Each episode, I'll share tips, ideas, and fresh perspectives to help you live your best life. Hi, friends. It's Lexy, Leigh. If you're new here, welcome. If you're not new, then welcome back. I'm so glad you'll be joining me for today's episode, which is all about creating a happy list. Now, I can't take credit for this. I actually had a listener contact me through the Piece of Me podcast Instagram page, and this is her idea. And I thought, you know what, she's onto something here. So before we introduce her, the reason I thought it was so important to have her on this podcast talking about this happy list is because life is busy, right? You know, life is hectic. You could be balancing relationships and friendships and school, careers, family members. How, you're doing all the things, kids, and you're getting pulled in a million directions. And, sometimes, or maybe even a lot of times, things are not going the way that you want them to. And we can find ourselves in a little bit of a not the healthiest of headspaces, right? So sometimes we need to kind of take a moment and remember what is important to us. And that's why I love this happy list idea. So we're going to talk to Kelly, and Kelly is a listener from Florida. She's a 39-year-old business owner. So she's also a boss babe. Yes, you heard that right. So she is busy. And she's taking some time out of her day to talk with us about this happy list that she created. So Kelly, welcome to the Piece of Me podcast.
Thank you for having me.
All right. So first and foremost, let's start with, what is this happy list?
Absolutely. This list is exactly as you named it, happy list. It's everything that brings me joy or anything that brings you joy throughout your day. When you're busy throughout your day, just the small little things that bring you peace, takes you away. These are things that you might overlook. You're so busy with work. You're so busy with kids, like you said, relationships. And the list is just something that you can look at that brings you a little bit of peace throughout your day.
So that must be kind of why you decided to create one, is just kind of to bring those reminders as to what brings you peace. Is that right?
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay. Now, where does this list actually live? Where is it?
So I have my list on my phone in my little notes app. So I can go back to it, look at it as often as I need to. I can update it as often as I need to, add to it. So that's where I keep my list.
Okay. Now, and
Yeah.
as a boss babe, I mean, you're busy, you're doing all the things, you're getting pulled in a lot of directions. You're probably having good days and bad days. So how often do you typically look at this happy list?
Well, I created this list a couple years ago, so I used to look at it pretty often. I would say a few times a week. Now I memorize everything that's on my list. So it helps me now throughout my day to recognize those small little things that are on my list. So you can look at it as many times as you want, add to it as you feel that you need to. But now it's just part of my day now. So now that list just kind of helps me recognize those small things. And it's like one thing on my list is paying attention to the birds, listening to the birds. So when I hear them, I kind of take a moment to listen to them, watch them, and enjoy that moment, and then go back to my crazy day. So that's, yeah, that's
No,
how.
yeah, and I love that because, like you said, it's you're in the middle of a busy day, and it kind of almost reminds you, because you have that list memorized, of, oh, you know what, I enjoy this. So it's good to take a moment and appreciate the simple happy things. So you mentioned that this list, you created your happy list a couple years ago. and it's probably changed over time, but how often would you say you actually update that list?
I actually haven't updated it in a little while. I probably added two more things this year, but in the beginning, it took me a while to come up with a list because, you don't recognize these things right away. So I might have had five things my first week, and then it might have taken me another 4 weeks to come up with another few ideas. So um, now it just seems that it's more of a better process for me as far as like adding things now. But you're not going to start off heavy, I would assume, right away. You have to just take the time to write down these small things that make you happy, and add as time goes on and take your time with it. But yeah, so that's
Hmm.
mm-hmm.
You bring up a really good point, which is, you said in the beginning, it might have taken you some time to really add to that list. And I think that's really important to mention because, if you're going through something hard, if you're struggling right now and you're going through a difficult time, whatever that might be, or you're healing from something, sometimes our wiring can be negative, right? And maybe not intentionally, but we're just in a dark place and we're trying to get out of it. So trying to kind of rewire our minds or our brains to now start thinking positively or remind ourselves of what actually brings us peace and happiness, that's hard to do. So I love that you mentioned that it might not just start all flowing and they might just not start come naturally. It might take some time to build that list. That's great.
Yeah. And I mean, throughout your day, like you said, we're so busy we overlook these small things. So it's just something to I guess I hit this wall where I was like, is this it? Is this the way my day is going to be every day? And when I've already done 10 things that I enjoy, right? So, and they're small things. It's not expensive things. I don't have money on my list. I don't have houses and cars and, you know, uh, these types of things that cost you money. They're just small little things. So, like I said, watching the birds, maybe cooking a meat, like a homemade meal, things like that. So, it just kind of opens your mind to, oh, I enjoy this, instead of thinking about work, thinking about kids, thinking about a relationship, thinking about negative things all the time. You actually stop and remember that, oh, this is a moment that I look forward to every day, because these moments are a part of your everyday. And once you get those things set and enjoy them more, then you have better days, in my opinion. And what's helped me, because my days are very stressful. So
And I think you're right on another part of that, which is that, it doesn't have to be monetary things. You mentioned it's not a car, it's not this. A lot of times I think because of, the ads that we see every day and, we're surrounded by stuff all the time. Um, and we think, oh, well, once we get that thing, once I buy that thing or I own that thing or I acquire that thing, that we're going to feel that fulfillment. But I love that. And I would think it probably took more time too, because you have to really get in tune with yourself to decide, if it's not something I'm buying, but what simple things really bring the calm, bring the enjoyment that, like you said, the peace. So now you mentioned the birds. Now, can you, if you wouldn't mind, and I know it's a little bit private because it is your happy list, but what things might be on your happy list?
I have quite a few things, and it took me a while to get all of them. Probably a little over 30 things I have on my list, but one of them is the smell of pine. So I am very big on smells and scents. And the reason why I love pine so much is because it reminds me of home. So I'm originally from upstate New York. I'm from, up in the Adirondacks, and we would smell pine constantly. So now living in Florida, we have different kinds of pine trees down here, but um, I bring that scent into my home, into my car, and it just brings back peace to me. So that is one thing that I have on my list that I enjoy so much. Another thing that I have is visiting over coffee. So I am a coffee snob. I love coffee. I love taking the time to have a cup of coffee with somebody, or even if it's just by myself. Coffee brings me peace. It's the start to my day. It's maybe even, an afternoon break. So
Mm-hmm.
it's something that I look forward to is a cup of coffee. Some people would love a cup of tea or, you know, some kind of beverage, your protein shake, whatever. But those are the
Mm-hmm.
small things that I enjoy and I take the time to enjoy. So that's another one that I have on my list. And
Love it.
let's see, one other thing I have on my list is fresh sheets. So I love fresh laundry. Every time, I change my sheets once a week. I look forward to it every weekend. The bed is fresh, the pillows are fresh, everything smells good. And after a long day, getting into bed with everything clean just makes me fall asleep even, quicker. So fresh sheets are another thing that I love. So laundry, all of that stuff. And let's see, something else that might and I know those are mostly typical things for people, bird watching, coffee, of course, who doesn't love the birds and having a beverage during, the afternoon and fresh sheets, but old cartoons. So
Mm.
one thing on my list is old cartoons, and I'm talking the old Tom and Jerry, Tweety Bird, very old school. And I used to watch those with my dad. So every time I see that, of course, we would laugh hysterically when I was a kid. And so that just brings a little bit of joy to me every time I see old cartoons. Um, so that's something that brings back some kind of peace to me. That was a very calming thing to watch those cartoons, knowing that I used to watch that with him. So,
I love that. Yeah.
mm,
And what's amazing too with that is, as people are listening to this, you know, you're a business owner, you're running the business, right? You're the boss, right? And the fact that, cartoons are something that's on your list, I think might surprise people because they might not put those two things together. But I think that really shows that you've done that work to really dig deep and remember what really does bring you enjoyment. And it's obviously something that was shared with, your father. And I think that that's such a great, way to kind of reconnect with those good feelings. So I love that. And actually, because of your list, before I recorded this episode with you, I did create my own happy list. And, and I realize that as people are listening to this, it might feel a little weird. It's a little different, a little corny. I get it. But again, I think that these are the things why we're at this point in life, we want to remind ourselves of the good and the positive. And sometimes we need to create those reminders frequently or often so that they're at the forefront of our minds. So I'm just going to share just a couple things from my happy list, and hopefully it will inspire those that are listening as you create your own. So, similar to what Kelly was just sharing, because I totally can relate to the coffee. I mean, I'm right there with you. Similar, though, is quiet mornings to myself. Before the house is awake, before anybody else is up, I really love the peace and quiet of my house. It just gives me some time to think the thoughts in my head, get organized, and just kind of wake up and enjoy that time to myself before the day gets busy. Another thing, and Kelly also mentioned this with, visiting over coffee. And for me, that was deep conversation. I love having a really connected conversation with somebody where, I find out how they are, how they've been, what's going on in their life. We just feel really connected, a really good catch up conversation. Um, I love those. I really look forward to those. Another one for me is really good food. Now, I'm no cook, but a really good meal is just, I mean, you really can't beat it. Um, and then, Kelly, you mentioned the scent of pine. For me, I kind of a similar. I love candles. I love candles, and for me, I have to, get all the stuff off the counters, which that's a project in itself. But, when the counters are finally clean of everyone's things, having a candle lit. with a nice scent, it just kind of, shifts the vibe in the house, right? It just creates a completely different atmosphere, and and it's calming. And I really enjoy that.
Ca-
I also, oh, go
Yeah,
ahead, Kelly.
candles are on my list too. And that's actually a motivator for me to clean the house. So I once I clean the house, that's my one of my favorite things to do is to light, of course, all the candles. I think that's for every woman.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, it's there's something about it. Even at night, there's like that light, that little bit of glow that comes off of a candle that has a different kind of vibe than the candle that, if you work from home, let's say, and that or it's the weekend and the house is just freshly cleaned and that just kind of releases that scent in the air. It's, during the day versus the night candle. It's just different and it sounds silly and it sounds like simple, but this is the stuff we're talking about, is
Hmm.
dig deep and figure out those little things that you're already probably doing and maybe not realizing, but you're enjoying it and it's what makes you happy, so put it to your list. And I will say my last one on here is actually just enjoying long outdoor walks. I love just getting outside, getting fresh air, and preferably if I can walk with a friend. I love it because then we get that deep conversation. We get time to catch up, feel connected to one another. But you're getting the fresh air, the sunshine. You're just the endorphins are going, and it just feels good. It's like I said, it just kind of shifts your environment, and it's one of those things I enjoy. So really in this episode, hopefully between what I've shared with you, what Kelly has been so kind to share with us, I love her idea of this happy list, and I love that. It might take some time to build it, but to go back and edit it, and keep it alive and keep it private. This is your list. This is what you're going to put together. It's what you're going to reference whenever you need to. So keep it in a private place. I think a cell phone's a great idea. And Kelly, do you maybe have anything else in closing for the listeners that you want to leave them with when it comes to this happy list?
Yeah, you can take your time with it. Take your time with your list, and it's hard to start off right away, but once you take the time to realize these small little things throughout your day that you enjoy, you do them more, and then you're just self-aware of them throughout. Once you practice, you're self-aware throughout your day that these are little things that you love, right? So don't rush yourself. Continue to add and edit, like you said. And before you know it, you'll have a healthy list. It'll be on top of mind throughout your day. It's just practicing those small little moments throughout your day that makes things better. And yeah, you'll get the hang of it. And before you know it, you'll have a better day, a joyful day, a more peaceful day. And then you can share that experience with someone else and pass that on.
I love that. That's a great tip. That's a great tip. Well, Kelly, thank you so much for joining us on the Piece of Me podcast. We really enjoyed learning about this happy list, and I think a lot of listeners are gonna, probably break out the cell phone or a pad of paper and get started. So, thanks for joining us, and for my listeners, thank you for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I look forward to talking to you all soon. So, be well, and we'll talk to you on the next one. Thanks again for joining me today. If this episode has helped you or can help someone you know, please share it with them. Stay safe and we'll chat again soon.